I have been on the hunt for practical uses of generative AI in healthcare, especially where it is having a real impact on patient as well as staff experience. My quest has led me to a company called Orbita. Orbita offers interactive virtual assistants and conversational AI that is designed to decrease call volumes and address patient inquiries. I was intrigued because they are using two forms of AI, generative AI and conversational AI, which powers their chatbots. The company also has recently made an acquisition of Wellbe, which will help expand Orbita's capabilities in patient navigation using both these AIs. Hello and welcome to Swaay.Health, where we bring you insights and interesting stories from the brightest minds in healthcare marketing. I'm Colin Hung, and joining me today on the program is Patty Riskind, CEO of Orbita. I spoke with Patty from the Orbita offices in Boston. So get ready to be inspired, learn some new tricks, and take your marketing game to the next level. Let's jump right in. Patty, welcome to the program.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we dive into the questions that I'm really excited to ask you about, can you give our audience a quick overview of Orbita?
Sure. So Orbita is a conversational AI platform that helps automate administrative workflows and clinical workflows in healthcare. So we use chatbots as well as email, text, and voice to automate components of the patient journey to make it easier for patients to access care, to find information, and to take the administrative burden off of providers as well as employees and other staff inside of the healthcare system.
I think one thing to point out as well is that Orbita has been around long before this current AI wave has crested. Right? So you've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, company was started in 2015 and originally focused in voice. So did a lot around Alexa skills, and Google Home was in existence at the time. So started with voice, but then transitioned to a more digital. We still do voice. So today we do IVR as well as we still have some Alexa voice skills, but predominantly are focused in a digital environment using text, email, and chatbots.
So the reason why I wanted to get together with you today is because you're, of course, using AI to help with the communication and the engagement with patients. So can you tell me, how is Orbita using generative AI to help answer patient queries?
Sure. So we have been using generative AI for some time, and we're using it as a tool to ingest content really quickly. So what used to take months in terms of gathering content from customers to build a knowledge base that could be accessed from a conversational perspective, we now can do that in minutes or hours. It's pretty remarkable. And then we complement the generative AI in terms of data ingestion with conversational AI to figure out how people ask questions and how to build intents as it relates to all of that content. I think the biggest thing is with Gen AI, we are hosting on a private cloud. So we only use content that has been vetted and validated and authenticated. So unlike ChatGPT, which pulls from everywhere and anywhere on the web, we have guardrails to make sure that the content that we're pulling is accurate and relevant to the use case or the scenario that someone might be engaging with it.
And can you give us an example of some of the types of content that you're talking about that it is ingesting?
Sure. So we have a product called Call Deflect AI. And you may or may not be aware that healthcare has been, the call centers have been inundated, and there's not enough staff to answer all the calls. So there's wait times and frustration, probably from both patients as well as from those that staff the call center. So we can scrape a website and ingest all kinds of manuals, as well as PowerPoint presentations and PDF files and videos that provide content for answering patient questions. And typically questions that come into a call center, 50% of them are routine questions. So an automated assistant, which can take the form of using voice, like through IVR, or noticing someone's calling from a cell phone, we can transfer you to a digital experience and then answer questions that way. So the content relates to where do I park? What are the directions? How do I schedule an appointment? Or I want to schedule an appointment. And then we can integrate with electronic health record systems to personalize the experience for the individual and to help them actually schedule an appointment and then navigate through what they need to do in order to get the information or the access that they need.
I'm glad you said that, because I think when we think about generative AI and ingesting copious amounts of content, we always lean over to the clinical side of things, right? What you're talking about is much more mundane and practical, which is the stuff of like, how do I get here? What are your hours? Where do I park? And that's the kind of information that you're ingesting and then feeding into your conversational AI, a separate form of AI, in order to engage with the patient digitally.
That's exactly right. And the conversational aspect allows us to really engage with patients because we meet them where they are in terms of language. So we translate into 108 different languages. Context. So if we pull from the EMR and we know this is a repeat patient, we can adjust the script to make sure that it feels familiar and that the patient feels known, versus starting from scratch and being really annoying and asking the same questions over and over again. So we really try to take advantage of the technology, one, to ingest the appropriate content, two, then to interpret it to make it human-like. And then we can also incorporate algorithms. So for example, if a practice has certain physicians that are overwhelmed and other physicians that have availability, or they want to route patients to mid-levels, we can take that into consideration, and based on, say, the patient's needs and how severe or urgent their needs might be, route them to the appropriate provider or the appropriate location. So if they're saying I have chest pains, we're going to send them to the emergency room. But if it's a primary care visit, they may be fine seeing a mid-level versus the doctor that is totally overwhelmed.
You mentioned call center a few moments ago, and sort of the how they're inundated and fielding a lot of phone calls. What has been the impact of AI that you're providing on the call center's operations?
So it's been pretty dramatic. I think that hiring call center staff and retaining them is hard, and training folks, getting them up to speed quickly, also takes time. So we've been able to assist to not only reduce the call volume, but also support the agents that are in the call center so they can use our content as a reference. So as a patient asks a question, if they don't have the answer, they could type in the question and up pops the answer that they can verbally communicate. But what we found, we've worked with practices that have 40,000 calls and are just, their hair's on fire, their front desk is freaking out. And as a result, we've been able to reduce the call volume, like cut it in half. And then that means that the right questions are getting to the human being, and the more complex situations, or if someone really just wants to talk to a human being, they can get through. So we've been able to pretty dramatically impact call volume to make it more relevant and easier for both patients as well as those that staff those call centers.
So you're deflecting about half of the calls, or up to half of the calls that would normally come into a call center?
Yeah, I would say most of the calls that come in are routine calls. And so if you're able to, one, you can measure from past, let's say, call records that a call center might have, or what we can also do is test it. So for the first week, we understand what kind of calls are coming in, and then we can develop the appropriate content and, responses as it relates to how the organization wants to respond to those questions. And then you can bring that call volume down pretty dramatically.
So let me ask the question the other way. We've talked about what the impact of AI is on the call center. What's the impact been on patients and the patient experience?
So ChatGPT has really helped, to be honest. I think for a long time, folks were annoyed by chatbots and by automated attendants, and it was, you get on the phone and you, like, if you call the airlines, you say agent, agent, to try and get to a human being. And oftentimes the chatbot on a website would be ignored. Most of the time people go to the search bar. And so what Orbita has done is actually create the ability to prompt a conversational experience from the search bar if somebody doesn't want to use a chatbot, and get actually better results. So most searches on provider websites are keyword search. Mm-hmm. What Orbita has done is we've developed, leveraging generative AI, a billion record knowledge base, which takes into account the types of search questions that people put in a search bar. And we've ingested all the ICD-9, CPT, DRG codes and their definitions and synonyms for those definitions, as well as 600 specialties and subspecialties and how they crosswalk to the different procedures. So leveraging that knowledge base, when someone goes to the search bar and asks a question, I have a swollen ankle, what do I do? Where do I go? We can then prompt a conversation. One, we parse what we call that utterance 27 different ways. And then we ask questions related to, what's your zip code? Are you male, female, other? Are you how old? So we can drill into, is this a pediatric? Is it a geriatric? Is it, what kind of experience is this person looking for? And then route them to the right place. So I think, one, people are more apt today to engage with that type of experience. And we found that chatbots can be really effective and get you answers fast. And I think more and more people of a certain demographic don't want to pick up the phone. They would rather have a digital experience. You still have seniors who in their 80s who want to make that phone call, but they also will engage with a voice assistant. So we're just seeing adoption go up pretty dramatically.
And I got to ask you this, Patty, where else are you thinking about deploying AI at Orbita?
Well, so we actually just did an acquisition, and it automates perioperative prep for complex surgeries. So okay. Surgeries like bariatrics or hip replacements or certain OB-GYN or neuro procedures involve qualifying a patient for that surgery, as well as prepping them from labs and imaging, as well as paperwork. And we have created a way to hold their hand and take them through that journey. And the company we acquired had increased surgical throughput 40%. So that means more surgeries, that means more efficiency, that means less burden on nurses and others to make sure that that patient shows up and that they've checked all the boxes. So we're really excited about venturing more into the clinical world and leveraging both conversational AI, Gen AI, and machine learning to do that.
That is another amazing statistics in terms of the throughput that you've been able to achieve. So it's great. It sounds like a lot of what you're doing really is to help the throughput, whether it's the call center or whether it's to a surgical suite. And you're using both generative AI and sort of natural language AI, conversational AI to do it. So you're combining the two. That's pretty exciting.
We think so. And I think in healthcare, because post-COVID, there's been such labor shortages across the board, and labor is expensive, that automating these workflows can save a lot of money and at the same time generate incremental revenue. So we think everybody should use it.
Well, Patty, you've shared a lot of information with us today. Where can people go if they want to find out more about Orbita?
Oh, go to www.orbita.ai and we'd be happy to chat.
Awesome. I love how you threw in that joke at the end there, Patty. That's awesome.
I couldn't help myself.
Hey, listen, Patty, I appreciate you being on the program today. Thank you so much for everything you've shared.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure.
I want to thank Patty for spending time with me today and for giving us a quick overview of how they are using AI in their solutions, both generative AI and more traditional AI. My key takeaway is that the output of generative AI isn't always meant to be a piece of content to be read by human beings. What Patty demonstrated and what her company is doing is that the output of generative AI can be used to power other technologies. In her case, making experiences with things like chatbots and automated attendants even better. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, please like and subscribe. Also, head on over to Swaay.Health. That's Swaay with 2 A's, .health. That's where you'll find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you on the next video.